This is CBC Vancouver News.
My dad never received a single call for extortion. That's a fact. He never exploited a single employee out of the thousands who've worked for him. And he had no connection to drugs, none.
From friends and family to advocates and politicians, a vigil for a prominent Abbotsford businessman draws crowds in the hundreds. Plus,
they are a simple reminder that how vulnerable our environment is around here.
1 week after part of a train toppled into a lake near Kamloops, one community is being warned to stay away from the water. Also,
my roots helped to serve Canada before Canada was even a country.
Canada marks Indigenous Veterans Day, remembering the battles fought abroad and at home. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We start in Surrey tonight, where hundreds gathered to pay their respects to a well-known BC businessman who was shot dead last month. As our Benit Braich tells us, community members rallied to raise concerns about public safety and to demand answers from leaders.
Moments of reflection and calls for change following the death of prominent Abbotsford businessman Darshan Singh Sassi.
Today, we light these candles not only to remember my father, but to ignite change.
This banquet hall in Surrey packed full, hundreds honoring Sassi's life, public safety at the heart of discussion. The 68-year-old was shot and killed outside his home in Abbotsford at the end of October. Sassi's family still left wondering why he was targeted and by whom.
My dad never received a single call for extortion. That's a fact. He never exploited a single employee out of the thousands who've worked for him. And he had no connection to drugs, none.
The vigil hosted by Sassi's family to demand stronger action on growing violence. Police don't believe this case is related to extortion. Still, it's a key public safety issue for many communities.
Across Canada, community leaders are being hunted in a wave of arson, extortion, and violence. Canadians deserve answers.
This is not a Punjabi community issue. This is not a South Asian community issue. This is a Canadian problem.
Local, provincial, and federal leaders across party lines also attending.
But it's our cities that are under siege right now. There is no question in my mind.
Surrey's mayor stressing the need for all levels of government to work together.
We are way too light on crime in this country. I'm sorry to say we really are.
In response, commitments to stronger action on violence.
And I can assure you that we are ensuring that the police have all the tools necessary to investigate these crimes and to bring perpetrators to account.
We must find different ways. We must think beyond the Criminal Code of Canada.
This comes as the Canada Border Services Agency says it has removed 3 people from the country as part of its work within BC's new provincial extortion task force, and that another 78 foreign nationals are being investigated. But many here still left calling for more transparency and action. Amid the grief and fear, candle lights flicker, a symbol of unity as violence leaves communities shaken. Benit Braich, CBC News, Surrey.
An RCMP adjudicator has ruled 3 Coquitlam constables violated the Mounties Code of Conduct over messages they sent in a group chat several years ago. One professor says while racism and sexism exists in many institutions, police are held to a higher standard because they regularly interact with the public and some in vulnerable situations.
When there are multiple cases of this, even if there is accountability, it does certainly raise concerns for community members as to whether they would feel confident that the police is there to help them.
The 3 constables were accused of making racist, sexist, and homophobic comments on a messaging app and on the RCMP's internal messaging system. The officers remain suspended with pay, and the force is seeking their dismissals. The next steps to address the misconduct will begin next week. It has been 1 week since a train derailed along Kamloops Lake, spilling 80,000 litres of jet fuel into the water. Officials now say early test results show the contaminant levels at drinking water intakes do meet provincial standards. But as Jacqueline Gelano reports, people who use surface level water are being warned to stay away.
When we learned from CPKC that the net amount of fuel had increased to 80,000 litres, there was obviously some anxiousness.
The regional district says people living all around the lake and downstream of the spill have been affected by the contamination. Municipalities were initially directed to shut off their intake of the lake's water. Now, officials have said those intakes are safe.
We've now confirmed the deep water testing at the water intakes of the downstream communities meets BC drinking water standards, which is obviously a relief for the residents of those areas.
Frederick, a seasonal off-grid community directly across the lake from the spill, does not have deep water intakes. So anyone there has been directed by Interior Health to not drink the water. The rail company continues to provide water to those affected by the spill. While the water from deep sources is considered safe to drink, it does not mean the environmental cleanup is complete.
They're starting that process of extracting the affected materials and taking the jet fuel out of the water.
The regional district says dead birds were found near the lake. Their bodies have been sent for necropsies to determine their cause of death. Jet fuel floats on the surface of water, creating a sheen-like appearance. An environmental group says the spill poses a threat to wildlife and people that rely on the surface of the water.
These are chronic problems. They're accidents by and large. And they are a simple reminder that how vulnerable our environment is around here.
Ross urges caution regarding the consumption of any water that may have flowed from the spill. He says this incident highlights the need for more safety precautions when it comes to transporting potentially toxic cargo. Jacqueline Gelano, CBC News, Salmon Arm.
A heads up for drivers taking Highway 1 through Burnaby tonight. A 5-kilometre stretch is fully shut down in both directions now until tomorrow morning. The closure took effect at noon today between the Sprott and Gallardi exits. It's related to the construction of the Burnaby Lake pedestrian overpass, which has been going on now for a few years. Drive BC recommends Lougheed Highway as an alternate route. The number 1 will fully reopen once again at 6 a.m. Members of BC's Sudanese community gathered in Surrey today to shed light on the nation's humanitarian crisis.
Our aim is to come and have a vigil here to commemorate the massacre that happened 2 weeks ago in El Fasher, Sudan. We are here to raise awareness, but also to really showcase the true humanitarian need and to get people to be interested in the cause and to donate to the cause and really learn more about Sudan.
They're also calling on Canadians to advocate for an arms embargo. It comes after a CBC investigation showed guns produced by an Abbotsford company have been identified in the hands of a paramilitary group in Sudan that's responsible for massacres of civilians. Multiple photos posted online and verified by CBC show rifles with the logo of Sterling Cross Defense Systems in the hands of fighters with the Rapid Support Forces. The RSF has been accused of ethnic cleansing. When reached for comment, Sterling Cross would not answer specific questions about CBC's findings in Sudan, its current international arms sale business, or whether it has sold weapons to countries that are alleged to supply factions in Sudan. Well, today marks Indigenous Veterans Day. Services have been held right across the country to pay tribute. But as the CBC's Talia Sarv reports, the day also highlights challenges faced beyond the battlefield.
With the pounding of drums and traditional song. A day of recognition and reflection, honouring the invaluable military efforts of thousands of First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, a history that stretches back over 200 years.
My roots helped to serve Canada before Canada was even a country, and to be able to continue that forward has been really awesome.
Indigenous Veterans Day began as a grassroots campaign in the early 90s in Winnipeg. It came after Mohawk veterans tried to lay a wreath at a national remembrance ceremony but were refused. The day would soon go on to become a national event, but just last week, Manitoba enshrined it into law. Veteran Randy Gage helped push that movement.
When they finally said yes, I cried, and I'm not a crier.
Services held across the country from the east to the west. Tributes were given to those who've served, are serving, and the hundreds killed in battle. Liz Hammond's father fought in the Korean War at 17 to escape residential school.
He found it safer to fight in the Korean War than to go to school where they dealt with horrific conditions.
But he'd come to find tough battles would continue there and when he got home.
When he came back, it was worse because he wasn't recognized. He had no voting rights. He had nothing.
Many denied veterans benefits and equal credit to their non-Indigenous comrades. More than 12,000 Indigenous soldiers served from the First World War to Afghanistan. While this period is usually the focus on this annual day of reflection, veterans say it's important not to dismiss earlier contributions.
All started, I guess, with the War of 1812, where we were asked to be Indian allies. We weren't even called Mohawks or Abenakis. They asked if we would be able to support, both Upper and Lower Canada, which we did.
Centuries of sacrifice helping secure Canada's freedoms. A privilege for the following generations, never to be forgotten. Talia Saab, CBC News, Toronto. Well, this year, Indigenous Veterans Day also happens to fall on the 80th anniversary of World War II. Our Janella Hamilton continues our coverage from Vancouver's ceremony.
A march through downtown Vancouver, ending with a moment of silence at Victory Square. Ginger Alec and her family traveled from Lillooet to be part of this year's ceremony, which falls on the 80th anniversary of World War II. Alec was only a baby when her father left to serve in the war.
Gave their lives to save us, give us our freedom. A lot of them didn't come back. I don't know if any of my family, I don't think any of my family didn't come back, but I know a lot of other people lost family over there.
Gina Edwards' great-great-uncle is buried at the Moro River Canadian War Cemetery in Italy.
Someone who belongs to us is not with us. And that's a huge sacrifice for Indigenous people because every day is a ceremony from the time you're born till the time you go back to the spirit world.
She says she's working with Ottawa to bring him home.
I think that it's really important for the government, the federal government, to really recognize what our Indigenous ancestors have done for this country.
Many Indigenous veterans weren't given the same benefits or recognition as their non-Indigenous peers, and for decades, Indigenous people who served were invisible in commemorative events. But one group is working to change that.
Having the mayor march with us, having Vancouver shut down the roads, having the Vancouver City Police support us, is very important to get recognized that it's not just us saying we're standing up for something that nobody else believes in.
That recognition bittersweet for some who wish their loved ones were around to witness it.
That actually brought tears to my eyes today, thinking about him and what's happening today, that he could have been a part of it.
Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Disappointing news for local football fans. The BC Lions will not be in the Grey Cup this year after falling to the Saskatchewan Roughriders 24-21 in today's West Division final. The Lions were leading 21-17 with just over a minute left in the fourth quarter, but the Riders drove 74 yards in 7 plays to score the winning touchdown. The Riders will now play the Montreal Alouettes in the Grey Cup. That'll be in Winnipeg on November 16th. Well, better news for women's soccer. The Vancouver Rise faced off against the Ottawa Rapid tonight to snag a spot in the inaugural Northern Super League final.
Left-footed shot into the top corner. Does it.
And that's it! The Vancouver Rise move on to the NSL final.
And that was Sophia Hagman scoring the winner in the 6th round of penalty kicks. The Rise will now face the winner of Sunday's other semi-final between AFC Toronto and the Montreal Roses. The NSL Finals is set for next Saturday. Kickoff is at 11 a.m. Still ahead, hundreds of flights canceled at 40 of the busiest airports in the U.S., all while senators meet on Capitol Hill for a rare weekend session in the shadow of an ongoing government shutdown. We'll have the latest next.
As a pattern of targeted crime grows throughout our communities, your voice matters. Join us for Extortion, Communities in Fear, a special CBC News town hall on November 13th.
Taking it to international news now, it has been a challenging day for scores of air travelers stateside. The government shutdown and resulting FAA-mandated flight cancellations has forced thousands of flight delays and cancellations. As the CBC's Chris Reyes reports, a combined 3,300 flights were delayed and 800 others canceled.
Spent all day in the airport yesterday, and by the time I got to Dallas, there were no flights to Orlando, so the airline did give me a voucher for a hotel and an Uber and a meal.
U.S. travelers are still in limbo as the Federal Aviation Administration cuts to flight capacity extend to this weekend. The FAA started with a 4% reduction on Friday at 40 of the busiest airports in the U.S., including Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles.
It's going to be tough, because if this continues to drag out, it could affect obviously Thanksgiving and Christmas.
The FAA cited safety concerns in making the cuts. TSA agents and air traffic controllers are on the federal payroll, and with the U.S. government shutdown, many of them have been working without pay. Some just don't show up, and others are stretched to the limit.
They feel desperate, hopeless, mad, and there's just appears to be no end in sight, and it's a problem.
By next week, cuts could increase to 10% of flight capacity across the U.S. So far, international flights are exempt. There are 400 flights between the U.S. and Canada daily. Mike Arnaud is with Cirium, an airline analytics company. He says the FAA is more likely to concentrate on cutting domestic routes with Delta, United, and American Airlines.
Working with those three major carriers in the United States, they can ease the burden on U.S. ATC air traffic control much easier than the relatively small number of Canadian flights. So Canadians, I think, should feel comfortable with their travel plans in the future, and certainly over the next couple of weeks.
The Senate opened debate for an emergency Saturday session, but the wrangling between Republicans and Democrats continues, both sides blaming the other for refusing to pass a funding bill needed to reopen the government. The shutdown is now in its 39th day, the longest in U.S. history. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Overseas energy facilities were the main targets in a barrage of Russian air attacks on Ukraine last night. Ukraine says 3 regions were hit by a blitz of 45 missiles and more than 400 drones. At least one apartment building was also hit, leaving 2 people dead. Russia has targeted Ukrainian energy each winter of the war. To Gaza, officials there say the number killed in Israel's 2-year offensive is now past 69,000. They say more bodies are now being found beneath the rubble. Others are being finally identified, and that scores have been killed despite the ceasefire. 1 person was reported killed today, a 2nd wounded. The ceasefire holds, though, and the exchange of dead prisoners continues. Another deceased Israeli hostage arrived in Israel late yesterday. The bodies of 156 Palestinian prisoners were returned today. And peace talks between Pakistan and Afghanistan have broken down. They started following heavy cross-border fighting last month, but yesterday Pakistan said they had collapsed. And today, Afghanistan's Taliban regime confirmed that. Pakistan released video of the fighting when it originally began. Islamabad accuses Afghanistan of harboring militants, and it launched airstrikes targeting a militant leader in Afghan territory. The fighting left dozens dead. Both sides say a current ceasefire will remain in place. You are looking at a live shot of Science World lit orange for Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Month. Still ahead, a look at who should and maybe who should not convert their gas cars to electric. We'll explain next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
Join CBC's Michelle Elliott on November 12th for an unforgettable evening of storytelling, leadership, healing, and unity at the Better Not Bitter Summit. For tickets, visit betternotbitter.ca. And the Chutzpah Festival returns November 12th to 23rd with an exciting lineup of performances including dance, music, theater, and more. For tickets, visit chutzpahfestival.com.
Welcome back. Most gas to electric car conversions are too expensive for everyday drivers, but for city fleets, that might be the smartest shortcut to axing emissions quickly. Our Johanna Wagstaff explains.
If we can convert old gas cars into electric ones, and we can, why isn't everyone doing it? Sounds like the perfect climate solution. Reuse the frame, swap the engine, save the planet. But here's the thing. The total emission savings is not as big as you might think. You're still manufacturing new batteries and wiring, and a full retrofit can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000. That's more than most secondhand and even new EVs cost. So who should convert? Well, if you're a classic car enthusiast and you've got to replace your engine, it might actually make sense. That's where a lot of the conversion community started. And overseas, in Europe and China, conversions there are cheaper and easier thanks to looser regulations and smaller cars. Here, it's still a boutique business. But there is one place where conversions actually make a lot of sense: city fleets.
Really what's holding us back is being able to get the fleet. But we have changed a lot of our light vehicle fleets. The challenge is going to be the trucks that we have, the garbage trucks, the fire trucks, everything else.
Every major Canadian city is racing to meet their climate targets with deadlines coming fast. And one of the easiest ways to slash emissions is focusing on the vehicles burning the most fuel, driving the same routes every day. That's where companies like Blue Forest come in, designing custom electric kits for existing work vehicles that don't exist as EVs yet.
Majority of the clients that we have been focused on have been the municipalities and the fleet-based organizations. They tend to have a bigger mass of the similar types of the vehicles, so it allows for that technology to be very well developed and enhanced and replicated throughout the rest of their fleets.
So no, we probably shouldn't convert every car on the road, but for fleets of large, high-emission vehicles in urban centers, conversions are a practical bridge for cities to reach their climate targets.
And that is your late news for this Saturday, November 8th. For news anytime, anywhere, you can always stream us online or check out CBC Gem. You can always head to our website as well. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.